Welcome to Binge Guide, the next show. You've tuned in because you want the inside track on what's coming up, and today we are diving deep into a new horror film. It's got quite a bit of buzz building already, St. Catherine, which is slated for release in 2025.
That's right. Think of this as your early look. We're going to unpack the core of this movie. You know, the concept, the team behind it, the actors, and the whole vibe they're going for.
Yeah, the goal here is really to give you a full picture, spoiler-free of course, of why St. Catherine might be, well, a pretty big deal in horror next year.
Exactly. All tailored for you, our listeners.
Okay, so let's start with the title itself, St. Catherine. It definitely sets a certain mood, doesn't it? And the core idea, it pulls you right in.
It really does.
Yeah.
We're talking supernatural horror, primarily set inside the very ominous-sounding St. Catherine Convent.
Right away, you feel that potential for chill.
Absolutely. I mean, a convent setting, it already has that built-in sense of isolation, maybe history. Perfect for horror when things go wrong.
Or when things aren't what they seem. And that seems key here, because the setup twists that familiar setting.
How so?
Well, the main character's Ellie. She's a young orphan, and her backstory is, wow, rescued from a satanic ritual, apparently.
Okay, that's intense.
Yeah. And then she's placed in this convent, this supposedly holy place. It just screams irony, you know? Like maybe safety isn't really on the menu.
Yeah, it suggests her past trauma might make her, I don't know, uniquely vulnerable. Or maybe even uniquely strong in that environment.
Could be.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is that this convent, St. Catherine's, it's not just a refuge. It's got this whole secret agenda.
Ah, okay, so it's a front.
Exactly. It's a front for a secret organization. And get this, their mission is to train survivors.
Yeah.
Survivors of demonic possessions, exorcism.
Oh, you train them. Train them for what?
To become warriors. Warriors against evil. So they're taking these victims and forging them into something else entirely.
Wow, okay. That definitely takes it beyond just a haunted house.
Right.
Or a haunted convent story. Proactively training people to fight demons, that introduces a whole different layer, like a hidden war.
But the training itself, it's not exactly safe. There's this central trial they mention.
Oh, yeah.
Students have to blindly draw a cursed object and then battle the demon inside it.
Blindly. So it's random chance what they face.
Seems like it. And if they fail, eternal damnation. Talk about high stakes for, like, your final exam.
No kidding. Eternal damnation. That really ups the ante. The randomness, too, adds a whole level of dread beyond just skill.
And right in the thick of it is Ellie. She's haunted by her past, this ritualistic abuse, these dark connections I mentioned.
So she's carrying a lot of baggage into this already intense situation.
Totally. And she's positioned as this, like, pivotal figure. Is she the institution's last hope? Or, because of her past, is she actually its greatest threat?
That ambiguity is fascinating. Is she going to be the savior or the catalyst for disaster? It really pulls you in, makes you question everything about her.
Right. So you can see it's aiming for more than just, cheap scares. There seems to be some real narrative depth they're trying for.
Definitely feels like it. Not just good versus evil.
Yeah, they talk about exploring corrupted faith, which in horror is always potent, right? And when the place meant for safety is actually rotten somehow.
It creates this deep unease, makes you question where anyone can actually be safe.
And then themes like the power of survival, the impact of trauma, those are heavy ideas for a horror movie. Suggest something maybe more disturbing on a psychological level.
Yeah, exploring how trauma shapes someone, how they confront fear. It taps into deeper anxieties, I think. Does it break you or does it make you, well, something else?
And the setting itself contributes. They describe it as claustrophobic, dark corridors, enigmatic nuns. You can just picture it being incredibly oppressive.
Well, for sure. The confinement alone creates that trapped feeling. And enigmatic nuns suggest the threat isn't just supernatural. Maybe human manipulation, hidden motives too.
Definitely. Now, here's something really interesting about the approach to making St. Catherine. It's actually an anthology film.
An anthology, like different stories.
Sort of, but not quite. It has 5 different directors, all from the international horror scene. Gonzalo Mellad, Rafael Oliveira, Juan Díaz-Garduño, Hanna Kazim, Michael Escobedo.
5 directors on one narrative film.
Yeah.
That's unusual. Usually anthologies are separate shorts. How do they make that work?
Well, it sounds like producer Nicolás Onetti was the key. He guided it, kept the narrative and style coherent across the different segments each director handled.
Okay, so a strong guiding hand.
Yeah.
That would be essential to make it feel like one complete film, not just, 5 pieces stuck together.
And it's an international co-production, too. Black Mandala Films from Argentina, and apparently they're known for extreme horror.
Oh, really? Okay, noted.
Yeah. And Vertical Entertainment is distributing internationally, so it seems like it's aiming for intensity, but also broad reach for us viewers.
Black Mandala's involvement definitely hints it might not pull punches. And vertical means, hopefully it'll be accessible for people to actually see.
Okay, let's talk cast. Valentina Maz is playing Ellie, and there's already buzz about her performance, described as intense, physical, psychological.
Sounds demanding. Portraying someone who's both fragile and powerful, victim and maybe predator, that's a complex line to walk.
Definitely sounds like a potential standout role. Then there's Pachi Lucas as Sister Elizabeth.
Sister Elizabeth, what's her deal?
Another ambiguous one. Guides Ellie with apparent kindness, but, she's got secrets. The classic, potentially untrustworthy guide.
Right. You're always watching those characters closely in horror, questioning their motives.
And Julia Krazelberg plays Mother Superior Susan, the absolute religious authority, but surprise, surprise, she has a hidden past connected to the evil she fights.
Yeah, so everyone's got secrets. It really deepens the mystery of the place itself, doesn't it? Her connection to the evil.
Yeah.
That could create some serious conflict.
Seems like it. The rest of the cast includes Raymond E. Lee, Paloma Cecilia, Emilia Mayo, playing other students, nuns, demons, even mysterious figures.
Demons as actual characters, huh? So, supernatural and human threats. And mysterious figures just adds another layer of what is going on here.
Exactly. It sounds like a whole unsettling ecosystem Ellie has to navigate. And interestingly, the acting style is meant to be realistic, disturbing, focusing on psychological terror more than loads of CGI.
Yeah, that can be way more effective sometimes. Grounded performances make the scary stuff feel, scarier. It sticks with you longer than just a jump scare.
Totally agree. Now, visually and audibly, they're calling it a contemporary gothic horror gem.
Contemporary gothic. Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Mixes the old school atmosphere with maybe a modern sensibility.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Key visuals mentioned are dark photography, tight framing, lots of shadow play, and a desaturated color palette. Grays, dark reds, blues. Paints a pretty specific, moody picture.
Yeah, that sounds bleak. Foreboding. That limited palette can make the horror moments, when they happen, pop even more.
And the convent itself is meant to evoke a medieval nightmare. So, not exactly a cozy retreat.
Medieval nightmare. Yeah, that implies this weight of history, maybe some primal fears bubbling up. Disorienting.
And the exorcism sequences? They're promised to be intense, with detailed sound design focused on the physical and mental torment.
Oof. Sound is everything in scenes like that. Focusing on the mental anguish alongside the physical struggle, that could be genuinely disturbing to experience.
And the score. Apparently it's by emerging composers and alternates between tense silence and jarring sound peaks.
Classic technique, but effective.
Yeah.
That silence builds anticipation, makes you lean in, and then bam, the sudden voice gets you. Builds real unease.
Right. Okay, let's dig a bit deeper into the themes. It really sounds like St. Catherine is trying to say something beyond just the scares.
Yeah, we touched on it with Ellie, but childhood trauma and resilience seem central. Exploring that psychological impact alongside the demons.
And religious fanaticism. Always fertile ground for horror. How faith can curdle into something terrifying.
When belief becomes extreme, it can justify almost anything, right? Raises questions about conviction versus control.
The blurred lines between good and evil also seem key, which fits with all these ambiguous characters. No easy answers about who the real monsters are.
Yeah, that challenges you as a viewer. Makes the threat feel more unpredictable, more unsettling when you can't clearly label the good guys and bad guys.
And interestingly, they mention exploring female identity within a patriarchal system disguised as faith. That adds a whole other layer, like social commentary woven in.
Definitely. Looking at power dynamics, female agency within that kind of religious structure, it could offer a really sharp perspective on oppression and fear in that setting.
And finally, the theme of the body as a battleground. Classic possession stuff, but it sounds like they're really leaning into the physical, visceral side of that fight between soul and demon.
Right. It highlights that violation, that loss of control, makes the horror feel incredibly personal and, disturbing to watch. You feel that vulnerability.
So it's aiming to be both supernatural horror and a dense psychological thriller, suggesting, like we thought, the real monsters might be wearing religious robes. Chilling idea.
It really is. That subversion where the internal human darkness is maybe just as dangerous or even linked to the external demonic threat, that's compelling stuff.
So what's the early word? Has anyone actually seen it? The buzz sounds pretty good.
Yeah, the reactions mentioned are positive. Things like an absolute surprise with a soul of its own. That suggests it's not just another formulaic horror flick. It offers something memorable.
And specific praise for Valentina Moss, the lead, calling her performance one of the year's best in horror. That's high praise.
It really is. A strong lead is so crucial for these kinds of intense psychological horror stories. Sounds like she really delivers.
Comparisons to The Nun come up, which makes sense with the setting, but...
But St. Catherine apparently avoids the cliches, offers a more solid narrative, and, intriguingly, a disorienting, unsettling ending.
Okay, that sounds promising. An unsettling ending that avoids cliches, that's often what really elevates a horror film, leaves you thinking.
Exactly. It makes it stick with you.
Let's peek behind the curtain a bit. Production details. The Convent set, partly built in a studio in Argentina, but they also filmed in a real deconsecrated monastery.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Filming in a real deconsecrated monastery, that must add such an authentic layer of atmosphere. You can't easily fake that kind of history and maybe residual creepiness.
Totally. And apparently the lead actresses did physical and mental training based on real exorcism techniques, supervised by a theological consultant.
Whoa, that's some serious dedication. Suggests they really wanted to portray that aspect authentically, make it feel believable, however disturbing.
And the title itself, St. Catherine. It's a direct reference to St. Catherine of Siena.
Ah, the historical figure. Wasn't she known for fighting corruption in the church and having visions, that kind of thing?
Exactly.
Yep.
So there's this historical thematic resonance baked right into the title. Makes you wonder how her story connects to the film's plot.
Adds another layer of depth to consider.
And one last interesting bit. It was originally planned as a horror miniseries.
Oh, really? Before becoming a feature film?
Yeah, which might explain the 5 directors and maybe suggest there was a lot of story they had condensed down. Could mean it's packed pretty tightly with ideas.
That makes sense. Could lead to a really dense, intricate story if they pulled it off right.
So let's bring it all together. Why should people keep St. Catherine on their watch list for 2025? Why is it potentially the next show or movie to catch?
Well, based on everything we've discussed, it sounds like it's aiming higher than just jump scares. It's described as a descent into sin, guilt, blind faith, and human suffering. That points towards something with real thematic weight, real psychological impact.
And you've got this mix of international directors, what sounds like really intense performances, especially from the lead, and this chilling contemporary gothic atmosphere. It just feels like it has all the ingredients to be one of the more interesting and genuinely unsettling horror films coming out.
Yeah, I'd say if you like supernatural horror that isn't afraid to dig into psychology, if you like exorcism stories that maybe offer a darker twist, and you value atmosphere that really gets under your skin, then St. Catherine sounds like one you absolutely shouldn't miss.
Absolutely. Well, that was our deep dive into the upcoming horror film St. Catherine. Hopefully this gave you a good sense of what might be coming your way. Keep an eye out for it in 2025. And join us next time on Binge Guide for another look at what could be the next show.
Before you go, though, here's something to chew on. The film explores darkness hiding within a place of faith. It makes you wonder, where else in life do we find supposed havens that might actually conceal something far more unsettling?
Good question. Something to think about until next time on Binge Guide. The next show.